My beloved child. Stop scrolling for just a moment, because what you are about to hear was written as a fictional spiritual message for your heart, and there is something inside this story that may feel strangely familiar. You did not arrive here because you were looking for another ordinary love story. You arrived because somewhere between what you know and what you have never been told, there is a secret waiting to unfold. Pause here. Take one slow breath. Because in this story, your soulmate has been carrying something about you that they have never known how to explain. They have thought about telling you. They have almost told you. More than once, they stood with the words on the tip of their tongue, wondering whether you would understand them or whether you would pull away. But instead of telling you directly, they did something unexpected. They told their mother. And what happened after that conversation changed the direction of everything. Not because your soulmate revealed some ordinary detail. Not because they casually mentioned your name over dinner. But because they finally admitted something they had been trying to hide even from themselves. Something about the way they feel when they think about you. Something about the way your presence has affected their life. Something they could not explain logically. And their mother noticed immediately that this was different. She heard your name. Then she looked at her child. And before your soulmate could say another word, she understood that this was not a casual attraction. This was deeper. Much deeper. There are moments in life when a person can hide their feelings from everyone except the one person who has known them since childhood. Their mother was one of those people. She knew the tone of their voice. She knew the difference between excitement and nervousness. She knew when they were pretending not to care. And when your soulmate began talking about you, something in their voice changed. They tried to make it sound normal. They said your name as if it were nothing. They described something you had done as if it were just another memory. They laughed at something you had said. They mentioned your smile. Your eyes. Your way of speaking. The way you sometimes become quiet when you are hurt. The way you seem strong even when something inside you is breaking. And then their mother stopped them. She asked one simple question. Why are you telling me all this? Your soulmate went silent. That silence said more than any confession could have. Because they suddenly realized what they were doing. They were not simply describing you. They were revealing you. They were revealing how deeply you had entered their heart. And that frightened them. Not because you had done anything wrong. But because real feelings have a way of making even the strongest person feel vulnerable. Your soulmate had spent so much time trying to understand what was happening inside them. They had questioned the timing. They had questioned the circumstances. They had wondered why they could meet other people, talk to other people, laugh with other people, and still somehow end up thinking about you when the room became quiet. They wondered why certain songs reminded them of you. Why certain places made them look around instinctively. Why they sometimes reached for their phone without knowing why. Why your absence could be felt even when you were nowhere near them. And they wondered why they could not simply forget. They tried. That is the part they did not tell you. They tried to convince themselves that you were only a chapter. They told themselves that time would make the feeling disappear. They thought distance would weaken it. They thought silence would erase it. But silence did something completely different. It made the feeling louder. And one evening, after carrying it for far too long, your soulmate found themselves sitting with their mother. The room was quiet. There was no dramatic music. No storm outside. No sign that anything extraordinary was about to happen. Just an ordinary conversation in an ordinary room. And yet, sometimes the greatest turning points in a person's life begin in ordinary moments. Their mother asked how life was going. Your soulmate answered, fine. But she knew immediately that it was not fine. A mother can hear the weight hidden inside a single word. She looked at them and asked again. What is really going on? Your soulmate smiled. They tried to change the subject. But their mother did not let them. And eventually, your soulmate whispered something they had never said aloud before. I think there is someone I can't get out of my heart. Their mother became still. She did not interrupt. She simply waited. And your soulmate began talking. At first, they spoke carefully. They did not tell the whole story. They left out certain details. They tried to protect themselves. But the more they spoke, the harder it became to stop. They told their mother about you. And then they told her the secret. The secret was not simply that they loved you. It was something even more vulnerable. They admitted that sometimes they felt as if you could see through them. They admitted that being around you made them want to become a better version of themselves. They admitted that your opinion mattered more than they wanted it to. They admitted that when something good happened, you were one of the first people they wanted to tell. And when something painful happened, they secretly wished you were there. Then came the confession that made their mother look at them differently. Your soulmate said, I don't know why, but when I imagine my future, I keep seeing them in it. Silence. Their mother stared at them. Your soulmate looked away. And for the first time, they realized that the secret was no longer theirs alone. Their mother knew. The woman who had watched them grow up now knew that someone had reached a place in their heart that nobody else had been able to reach. But there was something their mother did not know yet. Your soulmate was afraid. They were afraid that you did not feel the same. They were afraid that perhaps they had misunderstood everything. They were afraid that the connection they felt might only exist inside their own heart. They were afraid of rejection. They were afraid of embarrassment. And most of all, they were afraid of losing the possibility of having you in their life at all. Because sometimes people do not confess their feelings because they are weak. Sometimes they stay silent because the feeling is too important. Your soulmate knew that if they said the truth and you did not feel the same way, they could never take the words back. So they kept carrying the secret. But their mother asked another question. Does this person know? Your soulmate shook their head. No. Why not? Again, silence. Then your soulmate said something that revealed the deepest part of their heart. Because if I tell them, everything changes. Their mother leaned back. She understood. And then she asked the question that your soulmate had been avoiding for months. What are you waiting for? Your soulmate did not answer. Because the real answer was complicated. They were waiting for a sign. They were waiting for the right moment. They were waiting to feel certain. They were waiting for courage. But deep inside, they were also waiting for you. They were hoping that somehow, without them having to risk everything, you would reveal that you felt something too. And their mother noticed this. She told them that love could not live forever inside silence. She told them that sometimes a person waits so long for the perfect moment that the perfect moment disappears. Your soulmate listened. But then something happened that neither of them expected. Their mother asked to see a picture of you. Your soulmate hesitated. They opened their phone. They searched. And when your picture appeared on the screen, their mother's expression changed. Not because she recognized you. Not because she knew you personally. But because she saw the look on her child's face while looking at you. That look said everything. Their mother smiled softly. Then she said something that your soulmate would remember for a very long time. You don't look at this person like someone you are trying to forget. Your soulmate looked down. They had no answer. And then their mother asked. Have you ever been this afraid of losing someone you never even had? Your soulmate's eyes became wet. Because that question touched the exact wound they had been hiding. They were afraid of losing something they had never been able to claim. They were afraid that someday you would move forward. That someone else would enter your life. That you would meet someone who would say the words they had been too afraid to say. That you would build a future while they remain trapped inside the memory of what could have been. And that possibility terrified them. But there was something else. Something they had not told their mother. Something they had barely admitted to themselves. They had already imagined what it would be like to hold your hand. They had imagined introducing you to their family. They had imagined hearing you laugh across a dinner table. They had imagined the smallest things. Morning conversations. Arguments followed by apologies. Celebrations. Difficult days. Quiet evenings. A future that was not perfect but real. And that was why they were afraid. Because when you imagine someone only as a fantasy, you can walk away. But when you imagine them as part of your real life, walking away starts to feel impossible. Their mother listened. Then she asked, "Have you told them what you really feel?" Your soulmate whispered, "Not everything." "Why?" "Because I don't know if they will stay." Their mother looked at them for a long moment. Then she said, "Maybe you are not afraid that they will leave. Maybe you are afraid they will say yes, and then you will have to become honest about everything you have been hiding." Your soulmate froze. Because sometimes the truth does not hurt because it is cruel. The truth hurts because it removes every excuse. And suddenly, they realized something. Maybe they had been blaming timing. Maybe they had been blaming circumstances. Maybe they had been blaming distance. Maybe they had been blaming uncertainty. But underneath all of it was fear. Fear of being seen. Fear of being vulnerable. Fear of needing someone. Fear of admitting that you mattered. And their mother saw it. She saw that you had touched a part of her child's heart that had been locked away for a long time. But then she asked one final question. "What is the secret you haven't told me?" Your soulmate became completely silent. They looked at their phone. They looked at your picture. And then they finally said, "I think they changed me." Their mother did not speak. Your soulmate continued. "I don't know if they realize it. I don't even know if they meant to. But after meeting them, I started looking at myself differently." They explained that before you, they had become comfortable with emotional distance. They had learned how to survive without depending on anyone. They had learned to hide disappointment. They had learned to laugh when they were hurting. They had learned to walk away before someone could reject them. But you disrupted that pattern. Not by forcing them. Not by demanding anything. Simply by being yourself. And that was what made the connection so difficult to dismiss. You had not tried to change them. You had simply existed in their life. And somehow, that was enough. Your soulmate told their mother that there were things you had said that stayed in their mind. Small sentences. Tiny moments. Things you probably forgot. But they remembered. They remembered the way you looked at them. The way you listened. The way you made them feel that they did not have to perform. They could simply be. And perhaps you never knew how powerful that was. Perhaps you thought you were just being yourself. But to someone who had spent years hiding behind a mask, being accepted without having to explain everything can feel almost miraculous. Their mother listened carefully. Then she asked, "Does this person know how much they mean to you?" Your soulmate shook their head. "No." "Then why are you telling me?" Your soulmate smiled sadly. "Because I needed someone to know." And that sentence changed everything. Because their mother understood that this was not a conversation about a crush. This was a confession. A confession made indirectly because your soulmate was still too afraid to make it directly to you. But there was one more thing. Their mother had noticed something. Something your soulmate had not realized. Every time they spoke about you, they became softer. Their voice changed. Their face changed. The tension in their shoulders disappeared. For those few minutes, they were not pretending. They were simply someone who loved someone. And their mother finally said, "I think you should tell them." Your soulmate immediately shook their head. "No." "Why?" "Because what if I lose them?" Their mother replied. "What if you lose them because you never told them?" Your soulmate said nothing. And that question stayed in the room like a door that had suddenly opened. What if silence was not protecting the connection? What if silence was slowly destroying it? What if the person they were so afraid of losing was already moving forward? What if you had been waiting too? What if you had interpreted their silence as indifference? What if you had convinced yourself that they never cared? And suddenly, your soulmate realized something painful. Maybe you had been carrying your own unanswered questions. Maybe you had wondered why they came close and then pulled away. Why they sometimes looked at you as if they wanted to say something and then changed the subject. Why their behavior seemed to contradict their words. Why they remembered details about you that nobody else remembered. Why they seemed jealous sometimes but refused to admit it. Why they disappeared when emotions became intense. Maybe you thought you were imagining it. Maybe you thought you were reading too much into things. But in this fictional story, you were not imagining the emotional conflict. Your soulmate had been fighting themselves. And their mother was the first person to see the entire picture. She asked them to be honest. Not with her. With you. Your soulmate nodded slowly. For the first time, they considered actually telling you everything. But then their phone vibrated. They looked at the screen. And there was your name. Your soulmate stopped breathing for a second. Their mother noticed. She smiled. "Answer." Your soulmate stared at the screen. The message was simple. Ordinary. Nothing dramatic. And yet, to them, it felt like the universe had suddenly placed a choice in their hands. They could answer casually. They could pretend nothing had happened. They could hide again. Or they could finally begin telling the truth. Their thumb hovered over the screen. They typed something. Deleted it. Typed again. Deleted it again. Their mother watched silently. Then your soulmate finally sent a message. But it was not the confession. Not yet. It was only a few words. And those few words would eventually lead to something neither of you expected. Because after sending that message, your soulmate looked at their mother and said, "I think I need to tell them what I told you." Their mother nodded. But then she said something that made your soulmate stop. She said, "Not everything." Your soulmate looked confused. Why? Their mother looked at the phone. Then she looked back at her child. "Because there is something else you haven't told me." Your soulmate's face changed. "What?" Their mother smiled gently. "You said you are afraid of losing them. But you haven't told me why you believe they might leave." Silence. Your soulmate looked down. And suddenly, the entire conversation took a darker emotional turn, not frightening, but deeply revealing. Because behind the fear of rejection was another story. A story about something your soulmate believed about themselves. Something they had carried for years. Something that made them believe they were not enough. They had never told you. They had never told their closest friends. And until that moment, they had never fully told their mother. Their mother waited. Your soulmate took a breath. Then another. And finally whispered. "Because they deserve someone better than me." Their mother looked at them with tears in her eyes. And she asked, "Do you really believe that?" Your soulmate did not answer. Because somewhere inside, they did. They believed you were too good. Too patient. Too genuine. Too emotionally strong. They believed that if you knew everything about them, you might change your mind. And suddenly, the secret about you became connected to a secret about them. They did not only fear that you would reject their love. They feared that if you truly saw them, you would reject who they were. That was the wound. That was the hidden battle. And their mother finally understood why her child had been running from something they wanted more than anything. They were not running from you. They were running from the possibility that you might love them completely. Because being loved completely means being seen completely. And being seen completely requires courage. Your soulmate sat there in silence. Their mother reached for their hand. She did not tell them to forget you. She did not tell them to chase you. She simply said, "If you want this person in your life, stop deciding for them whether you are worthy of their love." Those words hit deeply. Because your soulmate had been making a decision on your behalf. They had already rejected themselves for you. They had already assumed you would say no. They had already written an ending to a story you had never been given the chance to read. And perhaps that is the cruelest form of fear. Rejecting yourself before another person ever gets the chance to choose you. Your soulmate looked at your name on their phone again. This time, they did not look away. They opened the conversation. They began typing. Slowly. Carefully. One sentence. Then another. Their mother watched. And then your soulmate wrote the words they had been afraid to say. "I need to tell you something." They stopped. Their heart raced. They almost deleted it. But their mother said, "Send it." Your soulmate pressed send. And then came the waiting. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 5. No response. Your soulmate placed the phone face down. They stood up. Walked across the room. Sat down again. Checked the phone. Nothing. They tried to laugh. They said it was fine. But their mother knew better. Then the phone lit up. Your soulmate froze. A notification. Your reply. They stared at it without opening it. Because suddenly, the moment they had been waiting for had arrived. The moment they had feared. The moment they had prayed for. The moment they had imagined 1,000 times. Their mother looked at them and said, "Whatever happens next, at least you finally told the truth." Your soulmate opened your message. And when they read the first sentence, their entire expression changed. Their mother asked, "What did they say?" Your soulmate could not answer. They simply stared at the screen. Then tears began forming in their eyes. Not tears of sadness. Not exactly. Something else. Relief. Shock. Disbelief. Because your message contained something they had never expected. Something that made them realize they might have misunderstood your silence all along. You had not been indifferent. You had been waiting too. And that was when your soulmate finally understood that the story was not only about what they had hidden from you. It was about what you had hidden from them. But before they could explain your response to their mother, another notification appeared. This time, it was not from you. It was from someone else. Someone whose name they had not expected to see. Someone connected to the past. Someone who knew a part of the story that your soulmate had never told you. Their mother saw the name on the screen. Her expression changed instantly. Your soulmate looked at her. And for the first time that night, their mother seemed genuinely concerned. "Who is that?" your soulmate asked. She did not answer immediately. She simply stared at the name. Then she whispered, "I thought that chapter was over." Your soulmate stood up. "What do you mean?" Their mother looked at them. And then she revealed something that changed everything. She knew the person who had just messaged. She knew something about the past. Something your soulmate had never known their mother knew. And suddenly, the secret your soulmate had shared about you was no longer the biggest secret in the room. Because the message on that phone was about to expose a connection between you, your soulmate, and a part of their past that had been hidden for far longer than either of you realized. Your soulmate opened the message. Their eyes moved across the screen. Then they stopped. Their face went completely still. Their mother whispered. "What does it say?" Your soulmate slowly lowered the phone. They looked at their mother. Then they said 4 words that made her heart sink. "It's about them. About you." The message was about you. And suddenly, everything your soulmate thought they understood about your connection began to collapse. Because someone from the past had just revealed something about you that your soulmate had never been told. Something that could explain why your paths crossed. Something that could explain why the connection had felt so strangely familiar. Something that could explain why, despite every attempt to walk away, your soulmate always found themselves pulled back toward you. Their mother reached for the phone. Your soulmate hesitated. Then slowly handed it to her. She read the message. Her eyes widened. She looked at your soulmate. And this time, there were no comforting words. No gentle smile. No easy explanation. Only one sentence. A sentence that left your soulmate speechless. Your soulmate doesn't know the whole story. And that was when your soulmate realized. The secret they had shared about you with their mother was only the beginning. Because their mother knew something. Something she had never told her child. Something connected to you. Something connected to the past. And something that, once revealed, would force your soulmate to make a choice they could never undo. But there was one detail their mother still had not explained. Why had she reacted the way she did when she saw that person's name? What did she know about you? And why had she been silent all this time? Your soulmate looked directly into her eyes. "Mom." She said nothing. "Tell me what you know." Still nothing. Then she took a deep breath. And finally she spoke. But what she said next was not an answer. It was a warning. Before you hear the rest, you need to understand one thing. Your soulmate leaned closer. Their heart pounding. Their phone still glowing in their hand. And their mother's voice became almost a whisper. "The reason you met this person may not be what you think." And somewhere, at that exact moment in the story, you were completely unaware that a conversation about you had opened a door that could never be closed again. You were unaware that your name was sitting between 2 people who were about to uncover a truth. You were unaware that your soulmate had finally admitted how deeply they cared. You were unaware that their mother had discovered something unexpected. And you were completely unaware that someone from the past had just returned with a message that could change everything. But the most shocking part was still waiting. Because your soulmate was about to ask their mother the one question she had been hoping they would never ask. And when they asked it, she would have no choice but to tell them why she had recognized your name long before your soulmate ever introduced you. And that answer would change the meaning of every moment your soulmate had ever shared with you. The story was not ending. It was finally beginning. And the secret your soulmate shared with their mother was about to become the secret that connected all 3 of you. But there was one final thing hidden inside that message. One sentence. One name. One truth. And when your soulmate finally read it aloud, their mother would close her eyes as if she had been waiting years for this exact moment. Because the next words were not about what happened yesterday. They were about something that had started long before you ever knew your soulmate existed. And when the truth finally came out, your soulmate would realize that the person they had been searching for emotionally may have been standing much closer to their destiny than they ever imagined. But that revelation belongs to the next part. Because right now, your soulmate is still holding that message. Their mother is still sitting across from them. The room is completely silent. And your name is still glowing on the screen. Then your soulmate asks the question. The question that changes everything. Mom, how did you know who they were? And their mother looks at them, takes a slow breath, and says, because I have heard that name before. Then she pauses. And the look in her eyes tells your soulmate that what comes next is not a story they are prepared to hear. Because the person who told them this secret was not a stranger. And the connection between you and their family had begun years before either of you knew it.